What's up, Nova Nation? I'm Victoria Newsom, and I'm here with...
I'm David Shapansky.
And I'm Stephen Kane.
And we have a lot to catch up on with men's hoops, starting with the end of non-conference play and the beginning of Big East play. So what have we noticed from the performance so far we've seen, and what are we expecting to see? What adjustments do the Wildcats need to make in Big East play?
I'm excited to kind of give it a grade, if you will, the non-conference play for the Wildcats. Little report card after all this final season, so it matches up pretty well. But great question, Victoria. I think the Wildcats, they've won 4 straight games, so they're obviously doing something right. They've won 5 of their last 6, which has also been a big improvement. Really, ever since that UVA game, after that loss to Virginia, they came back, played Penn, and really since then they played really well, really good basketball. Eric Dixon, the second leading scorer in the country, averaging almost 26 points per game. So, just to kind of give the non-conference play a grade, right? Villanova 7-4. The Wildcats played much better at home than on the road, and even at neutral sites. I would give it a B, honestly. I think obviously in the beginning of the season there was a lot of disappointment, right? The loss against Columbia, the loss against St. Joe's was really tough, but the Wildcats, they really rebounded nicely, and it's kind of about getting hot at the right time as you head into conference play against Seton Hall on Tuesday. So maybe I'm being a little optimistic, but I think there is good reason for optimism. They've looked much better. The offense has continued to play at a really high level, 79, 80 points per game, and the defense, which was the biggest issue in the first part of the season, really improved over the last few games. So I would give it a B. Maybe that's a little optimistic, but that's where I fall as of right now.
Yeah, and then for me, I'll kind of go with a similar grade that David laid out, probably like a B-, maybe a C+ at times. This team has looked a little shaky in certain spots. First off, the offense has been really solid, top 20 in the country in adjusted offensive efficiency, mainly because of Eric Dixon, right? You could argue maybe he's the best player in the entire country right now, which says a lot. And Jameer Brickus has taken a huge step. He's averaging 6, 7, 8 assists a game and limiting those turnovers, especially recently. So just doing a great job at setting up his teammates. And Wooga Poplar has really come on recently as a true 3-level scorer. We saw him really in the beginning of the season, even when the team was struggling. He was good at getting to the rack and getting to the free throw line at times. But his three-point shooting wasn't the best. Now it's getting a little bit better. But just the defense, there's just some weaknesses. I agree with you, David. I think the biggest improvement on that end has been they're forcing more turnovers. That's always been kind of an issue. But, they were in the 250s, 260s in turnover percentage force. Now they're more around the average 170, 160 ranking. But still, that three-point defense, especially, especially recently, they have struggled just getting back on defense and contesting some of those perimeter shots. So I'd probably go with the C+. You hold Villanova to a high standard, right? An A, I think in my grade book, it depends. I think is, legitimately like one loss, maybe you go perfect, right? So I am grading them a little bit harder, but I think that just speaks to, how much belief you have in this team. You want to hold them to a high standard.
I agree. I would give it more of like a B-. I feel like the spark came. We saw it after the loss to Maryland at the Prudential Center, and it was like, okay, we need to get our lives together. We need to play harder and use those adjustments on offense and defense to make good plays. And I feel like I've seen a lot of growth also in Wooga Poplar. He's been going off the past few games, and I'm excited to see where they take it next in Big East play. But you mentioned before that they've had 5 straight wins in the last 6 games. So let's talk about that. Where is this winning streak coming from? I know for me, I thought it was after that Maryland loss, it was okay, how do we build? How do we keep winning games? So what is your take on that, guys?
I would say, I think the biggest reason for the winning streak has been Villanova's three-point shooting has been excellent. Last night it did struggle in the game with just 29% when it was all said and done against FDU, but they made they tied a program high with 19 threes on Saturday against Temple in the Philly Big 5 Classic. So they're shooting the ball much better as a team, around 40-41%. And this was a team last year who shot around 33-34% from behind the arc and took a whole lot of attempts. But obviously Jameer Brickus, who has really helped out tremendously, shooting the ball well from behind the arc, had a great year with LaSalle last year, but also Eric Dixon. We have to remember, this guy's a forward. He's shooting 54% from behind the arc, and that really has been the biggest thing that Dixon has worked on over the past few years as he continues to try to elevate his game, get ready to, possibly be drafted and head to the NBA. His biggest thing has been kind of growing that three-point shot, and you've really seen that come along, and that's a big reason why he's second in the nation in scoring right now. So I think the three-point shooting has really kind of led the Wildcats to their winning streak. I also think, too, their offensive rebounding has been key for them, right? They're doing a much much better job at getting the boards, getting second chance opportunities, which helps your three-point shooting a lot. And especially when Eric Dixon is so good and trying to grab rebounds and scoring a lot of points, he gets a lot of double teams. So that always leaves somebody, or not always, I should say, usually leaves somebody open at the perimeter. And kind of just one thing that I would like to see them improve on quickly here is just, I talked about the offensive rebounding. I would say the defensive rebounding, really. And Coach Neptune talked about it last night in his post-game press conference after the win against FDU. The defensive rebounding, which was a strong suit last year for the Wildcats, has kind of been average, maybe even a little bit below average so far, even with the 4-game winning streak. So that's what I would say, but I think the Wildcats are really surging and going at the right time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then for me, we alluded to it earlier. I think Jameer Brickus in particular, give an individual shout out. I mean, he's been a big reason why this team has gotten a lot better because, mentioned it earlier, I mean, he's always been somebody that'll give this team 6-7 assists, but he would have these crazy passes, trying to have these hero ball-like passes that would end up leading to turnovers, so he'd have stat lines like 7 assists but 4 to 5 turnovers, and you can't have that if you want to be an elite Villanova point guard, but now, especially recently, he'll have stat lines like the game against Temple on Saturday, 7 assists, but just 2 turnovers with a really high usage rate. So I think him in particular, just unlocking the rest of these guys on offense has been a big reason why the Villanova's done really well. And I mean, David, you brought up again, the defensive rebounding, something you need to improve on. For me, it's something that has unfortunately, I think, been a theme of this Villanova team, not just this year, but years past. It's getting to the free throw line more. Right? I mean, this Villanova team, once again, they may not lead the country in terms of free throw percentage for a 4th straight year. I mean, they've done it for 3 straight years, which has never been done in NCAA men's basketball history, but they're still top 20 in that category again, and they'll definitely probably be top 20 by the end of the season, but they're outside the top 300, and getting to the free throw line, you got to take advantage of that elite free throw shooting, especially since, David, I mean, the three-point shooting's been great for Villanova, but there are going to be times like we saw against FDU yesterday where you struggle a little bit. And Villanova did a good job scoring in the paint, but I would just like to see them get to the free throw line a little bit more like they did yesterday. You got to be able to pivot when your main strength, your three-point shooting, isn't working.
And I feel like just watching Brickus, he's so fast on the court. I'm just like, wow. Has a lot of room to grow, too. I feel like that's something that I'm excited to see in Big East play. But overall, like, any other thoughts you guys have to add? I mean, I'm excited for the rest of the season, but the holidays are coming around. I know some people are going off campus and relaxing, but they're going to be missing a lot of good games on campus. So just looking ahead with the games coming up, like, what are your predictions?
And I guess just to talk about the game against Seton Hall next week on Tuesday. I mean, this Seton Hall team, they come into the game with a record of 5-5. They really struggled earlier in the beginning of the season. And Seton Hall, they lost really 2 big players. Kadari Richmond, who went to St. John's, one of their big rivals, North Jersey, New York kind of battle. And then also Jaden Bediako, who was really their center, gave Villanova some trouble last year, especially in the rebounding category. So they lost really 2 of their top 4 players heading into this season. But they're still a well-coached team, and they still will find a way to score some baskets. They play gritty. They still have Dylan Adewusu, who has been a really good player for the Pirates over the past few years. But when you look at some of the games, I mean, they lost to Hofstra in the beginning of the season, which is really not a good opponent. I believe they scored less than 55 points against Hofstra. So the offense, they will find a way to score points. They have been playing better basketball recently, but I think there's a lot of weakness there. They're still getting used to playing with each other. When you lose your 2 top stars, I mean, it's always tough to rebound, especially so quickly. So I think Villanova is definitely going to be favored to win this game. They should win this game, but this is a big test for them, right? I mean, always, Big East play, games, Big East competition games are always tough. You have to be ready for them. And I'm going to be interested to see how Villanova adjusts, especially, facing a team that, can rebound the ball well. I mean, Villanova's played a lot of teams that have kind of struggled in the rebounding category. Now you're going to face those Big East teams, which have those, true centers that can really rebound the ball well. So this is a big test for Eric Dixon, Enoch Bawachi, and I'm excited to see how they do in conference play.
Yeah, and I mean, and to add to that too, I mean, it is really bizarre with Seton Hall because, I mean, you look at Ken Pom, right? They're pretty low. I mean, right now for Villanova, this is projected to be a quad 4 game, which is just crazy to say in the Big East, such a deep conference. I mean, that's, the lowest tier of opponent. It really just speaks to how Seton Hall has struggled in non-conference play, but they're outside the top 300 in offense. I mean, you mentioned it, David, big reason why. I mean, you can't even break 60 against Hofstra of all schools, but defensively, they're inside the top 40 in adjusted defensive efficiency. So really surprising stuff there. And again, Villanova, mentioned it earlier, top 20 in adjusted offensive efficiency according to Ken Pom. So that'll be a really interesting matchup. Villanova playing a really elite defense. We saw them do great against Cincinnati. They played really well against Maryland too, getting over 70 points with ease. Now they get another tough defensive matchup in Seton Hall. So we'll see if this really good offense that Villanova's played through the first 11 games can continue against the Pirates on Tuesday.
And just to add something really quickly here, I mean, as you get to Christmas season, really if Villanova can get a win against Seton Hall, it would be a very nice present for the Wild Wildcats to build their 4-game winning streak, make it 5 games. But also, if you remember, I mean, Villanova went up to the Prudential Center last year with a chance to really kind of, I don't want to say get into the tournament because Seton Hall won that game and didn't get into the tournament, but had a much better chance if they were able to beat Seton Hall. They were on that big winning streak. Brendan Hausen and a lot of the Wildcats are playing well, and Seton Hall beat them in that game at the Prudential Center. That was really kind of the nail in the coffin, if you will, last year for the season. So Villanova, I think they're going to look for some revenge, and you start 2 conference play against a pretty weak team. I mean, in my opinion, the Pirates are probably last in the Big East when you look at their talent compared to the other teams. So this is a good opportunity for Villanova to get some confidence and get ready for the rest of their Big East schedule, which undoubtedly will get harder, right? Marquette coming up, UConn, Creighton, all really good teams.
And now it's time for our stat of the week. And so I invite Nathan to come right up and deliver the stat.
Hello everyone, I am Nathan Mather here for your stat of the week for the Villanova men's basketball team. After a tumultuous November, it has been a time of rebound for the Wildcats. We have now won 4 straight against Rider, Cincinnati, Temple, and last night against FDU. And one specific men's basketball player who's been very good at rebounding is Wooga Poplar. He leads the team with 6.3 rebounds to this point, out-rebounding our big men like Eric Dixon and Enoch Boachi. And that is something we are going to need Poplar to replicate as we move into Big East play. And that is your Stat of the Week.
And that is all for our Cats on the Court episode. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a happy and safe holidays.